Hello and welcome to this presentation for CIEE's Teach in South Korea program. Today we'll be talking about the placement process for teachers applying to public schools. We'll begin with a quick overview of the school types that we work with. Then we'll talk about locations where teachers might be placed. We'll go through the materials that are required for EPIK's special application for public schools. We'll talk about your TEFL course, how that fits into the picture. We'll go over what the interviews will look like. And once you have a job offer, we'll talk about applying for a visa, the orientations you'll have in country, and your in-country support from CIEE's in-country team. CIEE places teachers at two types of schools in South Korea. The first type, where we place most of our teachers, are private schools, also known as hagwons. The second type are public schools, which is what we'll be talking about today. We place most of our public school teachers through the EPIK program, although we have a few teachers who teach at GEPIK each year. We'll focus on EPIK today, since that's the best place to start. Public schools are a little bit more competitive, but a little bit more desirable, and have a smaller number of positions available overall. The working hours are a little shorter, the vacations are a little longer, the application process is definitely longer, but we'll walk you through it today. Classes are bigger, but you have a Korean co-teacher with you in the classroom. The requirements are a little bit stronger. TEFL or an education degree is required to apply. Public schools generally reimburse teachers for their one-way airfare after they arrive. Normally, there's only one foreign teacher per school. That's a bit of a contrast from private schools, where there's usually more than one foreign teacher. Although they're very desirable overall, one of the drawbacks of applying to public schools is location. EPIK assigns successful applicants to a province before they depart South Korea. You can see a map of Korean provinces on the right here. This means that you won't know exactly where you'll be living and working until after you arrive in country. The actual school assignments are announced at the end of EPIK's orientation, which means the exact city or district won't be known until that time, after you're already in Korea on the program. The provinces at the right are the choices that you can pick from. You'll notice that some of the largest cities are actually listed separately from the provinces. They're administered as small provinces. Seoul is the capital. It's one of the more competitive areas. Teachers there also have a little bit longer commute than usual. They may have to ride the subway instead of just walking to school like most teachers. Busan is another large city on the southeast. They have a particular requirement where they don't accept online TEFL courses. They require at least 50 hours of the TEFL training to take place in person. Just a couple of quick things to keep in mind there. You can always talk to me more about your location preferences and what you're thinking about. EPIK's application gives you a place to list your first choice province or city from a list. After that, they'll ask you what to do if they're not able to offer you a position in that location. You can either choose to be considered for other locations or to withdraw your application if you don't get your first choice. Here's an overview of the steps you need to take in order to get a public school teaching position in South Korea. Your first step, if you haven't already done so, is to submit your CIEE application to teach in Korea, so we can take a look at your credentials and start working with you to match you up with positions. Your next step is to prepare a bunch of application materials that are important for your EPIK application and your visa application. We'll look today at TEFL, your background check, your diploma copy, and your EPIK application forms. Then there's two interviews. The first interview is with CIEE. The second interview is with EPIK. We'll talk more about those in a moment. If you're successful, you'll receive a job offer and be placed in a certain province. Then it's time to send hard copies of your documents to CIEE. And finally, we'll forward those to Korea. They'll process them there, and then they'll send you the documents required to apply for your visa. For the next few slides, we'll look in detail at some of the application materials that you'll need to be working on in order to make an application for public schools. This first one is for a background check and apostille to authenticate the check. This is a visa requirement for all teachers who want to go and teach in South Korea, whether it's a private school or a public school. So it's important to start this early, since it can take some time. You do want to watch out for the timing because these documents are only valid for 6 months from the date they're issued. We'll help you get the timing right so that you have enough time to get it without worrying about it, but that it's not going to expire before you need to use it. And we have detailed instructions both for US and non-US applicants. You can ask me for help if you need help finding those. Once you get this result back, please email a scan of it to me, your US coordinator, so that we can give you advice on what your next move is. Another important document is a copy of your bachelor's degree and an apostille to authenticate that copy. The process varies from state to state. The short version is you'll have a notary help you make a certified copy of your college degree. Then you'll send that copy off to the state capitol to get it authenticated with an apostille. There may be an extra step in the middle with the county level authorities. We also have instructions for US applicants broken down by state, as well as non-US applicants. If you haven't graduated yet, just check with your university to see exactly when you're going to have your physical degree in hand. That's an important document. It's required for your visa, and if there's going to be a delay, we want to know about that in advance so we can help you work around it. This document doesn't expire, so go ahead and get it done, and then it'll be ready to use however long the process takes. EPIK has an application that is famously long. At last count, the application itself was about 8 pages long, and the instructions for the application were about 22 or 23 pages long. It includes personal information about yourself, as well as a self-medical assessment, a series of pledges to promise that you're going to follow EPIK's particular program rules, and an example lesson plan. It's important to read the instructions carefully and follow them very precisely. When you're done, email it to your CIEE program coordinator. Usually that's me, so we can read it carefully and talk it over with you if we have any suggestions. You can find links to the forms as well as the instructions below, as well as from emails from your program coordinator. We wanted to zoom in on the lesson plan portion of the EPIK application. It's a little bit intimidating and it does give people some trouble. This is something that EPIK usually asks for updates. If someone's done an okay job the first time around, EPIK's going to give them feedback and suggestions to have them work on it and turn in a really good, solid lesson plan for their EPIK application. Here are a couple tips from our experience working with EPIK. The first one is to keep it simple and don't bite off more than you can chew. Remember that things often take longer than planned. Make sure that you have enough activities, but you don't want to try and cram a bunch of advanced topics into one lesson. Keep the goals simple and focused and achievable. It's important to describe your goals in a clear and standardized way. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to fill in the blank. Maybe it's use vegetable vocabulary. Maybe it's know how to describe their family. Something specific, something concrete. When you're describing what your lesson will look like and what you will do, be thorough and be specific. Explain exactly how you're going to introduce new words or new concepts. Explain what the students will do at each stage of the lesson and how long each activity will take. EPIK likes to see things that are active, songs, videos, the class repeating new phrases all together to help them remember it. Games are popular with students of all ages. Your lesson plan should not be longer than 5 pages, including handouts, although you can shrink down the handouts to half or 1/3 size, if that helps. EPIK actually has a separate section about lesson plans in their instructions, which is going to be a really good resource to review as well. If you don't already have a TEFL course or an education degree, and you're currently taking a course, it needs to be done before you travel to South Korea, either for the late August or late February start date. That means it's important to start your course as soon as you can. If you're taking a CIEE course, start looking around for practicum options early. That way you can just get that requirement done. Once your CIE course is complete, you can sign up for the included Young Learners module. It's an extra 30-hour-long module once your regular course is done. That's a great way for teachers to get even better prepared for working with the young students they're most likely to encounter in South Korea. As you've probably noticed, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of application documents. Once you've worked through the first part and you're done with your EPIK application, email that to your coordinator. We'll take a look. We'll also schedule your first interview. This is a low-pressure event. We're on your side. It's our chance to ask questions about your application and about you and your motivations, your teaching ability, your cultural skills, so that we can write a really strong recommendation for you when we send your application to EPIK. So again, if you're ready to move to the next stage, make sure you just email a copy of your EPIK application in Microsoft Word format to your CIEE program coordinator. From there, things start to get a little more serious. The second interview takes place with an EPIK staff person. They usually have pretty good English. They may be more formal or less formal based on feedback we've heard from past year teachers, but this is a very serious stage in your application. It's a competitive selection interview. To help you succeed, make sure you follow some of the tips on this screen. One important thing to note is the last tip. EPIK is a program that focuses on teaching, and their goal is to select people who are going to be good teachers. That does mean that sometimes people who talk a lot about their desire to travel or experience a new culture, EPIK sometimes interprets that as kind of being unfocused or using the program as a free ride for personal benefit or personal enjoyment. They're focused on teaching, and if you can focus on teaching as well, that's going to resonate with them and help make you a better candidate. It usually takes about 1 week for EPIK to announce the results of your EPIK interview. Once we've heard that you've passed, we'll let you know and we'll ask you to send us all of your hard copy documents. Send it all to CIEE. We'll assemble it into one application file, double check everything, and then forward it to Korea for you. Once EPIK has received your hard copy documents and made sure that nothing is missing and everything is correct, you're over your last big hurdle. This means that you have a firm job offer, and your next step is to apply for a visa. EPIK will send you some documents that will let you apply for a fast-track visa at a Korean consulate. That process is very quick. It only takes about 5 business days. The visa processing fee has been $45. We have good instructions for this step of the way as well. You're almost there. Once you've got your visa and you've bought your flight, we'll give you detailed information about what to expect when you arrive. For EPIK teachers, there is an EPIK orientation that takes place immediately upon arrival. There's a few different orientation dates depending on your location. Some teachers will arrive in Seoul at the Incheon airport, some teachers will arrive in the south at Busan. The orientation lasts about a week, and at the end, you'll be assigned to your exact school and city, and you'll know really where you're going to be living and working. It's also the time we'll introduce you to our in-country team, Brad and Yumi Brennan, who've been working with teachers, helping teachers get jobs, helping teachers adjust to Korea for 8 years and more. They're a husband and wife team. They have a ton of great experience and have helped a lot of CIE teachers over the years. You'll get to know them a little bit before you depart. You'll have their contact information. They're your in-country coordinators for support and assistance. In an emergency, they're available 24/7 to help you. They will also invite you to a CIEE orientation weekend, usually within 2 to 4 weeks of arrival, where you get to meet other CIE teachers who weren't at your own EPIK orientation and who were placed at private schools. So it's a good chance to share experiences so far, talk about what's working well, what's giving you a challenge, and expand your professional and social network in South Korea. Those are the facts. That's what the process looks like. Those are the documents you're going to have to be working on. But that's not really the whole picture. There's also this whole roller coaster of emotions and ups and downs and hurry up and wait that goes on with the process of applying to schools in South Korea. This is true of both private schools and public schools. So we like to put this in here as some reassurance. It takes a long time. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of waiting, a lot of uncertainty. EPIK is very picky, and you shouldn't be put out if they ask you for updates to your lesson plan or to your documents. That happens to most, if not all, teachers. And even if your EPIK application isn't successful ultimately, the private schools are available as a plan B. What we're trying to say is don't get stressed out by this. We're here to walk you through it. We're here to help you and support you. Even before you go to South Korea, you can always pick up the phone and give us a call. That number on the screen will be answered during business hours by our teacher abroad coordinators. Once you get a job, you're going to have tons more questions about how to get ready and what to expect, which is totally fine. We can't cram them into this presentation, but we do have a separate pre-departure orientation presentation that's going to be available to you. It'll cover the topics on this screen. So you're not going in blind. These are all things that you'll have a chance to read about and talk about with your fellow teachers and your coordinators and have some sense of what to expect and how to prepare before you arrive in Korea and start teaching. Here's a rough timeline for what to expect if you're applying to public schools in the spring season. If it's October 1st or after, you should apply for your background check and your apostilles as soon as possible. That will make sure that they don't run into the 6-month expiration date, and they're still valid when you go to apply for visas and residency. If it's before October 1st, you can wait a bit on that background check. Interviews will happen between October and December with EPIK. The start date is going to be the last week of February. If you're applying to the fall season, the date to apply for a background check is April 1st, or as soon as possible after that. Just make sure it will be valid through the August and September when you're using it for visas and residency. Interviews are expected to take place from April to June, and the arrival date is the last week of August. Thanks for listening to today's webinar. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.